This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, in the last session, we were talking about some basic points related to accounting, wherein we were talking about what is debit, what is credit, what are the type of account, P&L account, balance sheet account, golden rules of accounting, accounting cycle we understood. We took one assignment called identify at least 25 account or 25 GL account names under each category, 25 asset, 25 liability, 25 expenses and 25 incomes. And then we understood the basic accounting entries and business transactions that we wanted to write, assuming any example of any business for the first 1 month transaction. You can take any example, assuming that this is the company or this is the business that you're talking about. If you perform the 1 month or if you run the business for 1 month, what are all the possible transactions that will happen? And from these business transactions related to for the first 1 month, whether we are able to figure out profit loss. This was the activity that we wanted to take in the last session. Now let us try to understand how we can calculate this. This is only to make sure we feel comfortable, we feel familiar with what is actually happening in accounting at a very basic level. Same logic, same fundamental we will be applying in all the business transactions, but in a different context from the real-time perspective. Assuming I will be taking the same activities from the last session, whatever we did, I will write that the capital is 50,000. When we say that capital is 50,000, this is our investment. When we say capital is 50,000, this is our investment. Now it is very clear that whatever is your investment, from your investment only you need to run the business. If your investment or if your capital is 50,000, you cannot spend any amount beyond 50,000 because that is what is your investing in the business. You need to manage everything from this 50,000 itself. Now assuming from this 50,000, we need to pay some advance rent. We need to pay some advance rent. Randomly, you should not put any number. You have to be calculative. You need to think from the realistic point of view and then update the number. If your total capital is 50,000, you are not going to pay 10,000 as your rent anywhere, assuming that your monthly rent is somewhere around 3,000. If your monthly rent is 3,000, you may be paying maybe 1 month rent, 2 month rent, assuming that advance rent you are paying only 5,000. These are only the imaginary figures. These are only the imaginary figure. Just to understand, we are putting these figures. That's it. Later on, once you get the concept, you can replace this number with any number of your choice. You can add as many transactions as you want according to your understanding. Assuming that after paying the advance rent for 5,000, first month I may be paying a rent of, let's say, 2,000 rupees. First month I am paying the rent of 2,000 rupees, and now I have some purchases. Now immediately what I will do, the moment I have 50,000 in my hand, before setup or before starting the business, I need to take one shop or one office for rent, for which I have given 5,000 advance payment to the landlord. After giving 5,000 advance payment, I am left with 45,000 now, because this 2,000 will be paid at the end of the month. This 2,000 you will be paying at the end of the month, not at the beginning of the month. So according to me, I have 45,000 available with me. Out of 45,000, I will assume that I am going to purchase 30,000. Out of 45,000, I am spending 30,000 for my purchases. Let's assume that whatever you purchased, you sold, and the product or the items that you purchased for 30,000, you sold everything. There is no closing stock. Assuming that this 30,000, you sold it for 43,000. Assume that 30,000 worth products you sold it for 43,000. Salaries, let's say you paid 3,000 rupees. Electricity, let's say you paid somewhere around 500 rupees. Assuming that this is what your transaction that you did, and if you want, you can add additional thing like you had some furniture purchased, let's say for 2,500, and you purchased some computer, maybe I would say computer and printer together I'll put somewhere around 5,000. We know that you don't get any computer for 5,000, but don't compare it in practical way whether the values are correct or not. We are trying to write the number to understand the transaction. That's it. When you're taking your own example, please take the example according to your understanding. You can increase the value of your capital. As per that, you can put value accordingly. Now, if you consider these are the first month transaction, for this first month transaction, you need to update the accounting and then find out the transactions. What I'll do, I'll take these entries here, copy. Now I'll come down here. I'll place this here. I'll put this as transaction, this as amount. Now from this transaction, from this amount, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to write additional points. Let's say here I'm going to write accounting entry. In the accounting entry, we know that you will have something called debit, you will have credit. Now we need to map this under debit and credit. Now you need to make some assumptions here, because there is nobody who will tell you what happened, how this happened. What happened? Okay. And we need to assume that everything is a cash transaction. Assuming that note all are cash transactions. Notice all are this cash transaction, meaning whatever the entry that you're recording is settled or is performed by using your cash. Now first one is your capital account. Whenever you talk about capital, you should understand what will be the accounting entry for capital. Let's say for capital, I would say debit is your cash, credit is capital. Assuming that this is what I am writing, for capital, accounting entry will be debit cash account, credit capital account. Second one, when I write advance rent account, for this also you need to write one accounting entry. Advance rent means you are making a payment to the vendor. Whenever you make the payment to vendor, your cash is going out. I'll put cash on the credit side. You are spending a cash for the advance rent. Advance rent means when you vacate, you will get it back. So since you are going to get it back, I am going to treat it as asset. Asset will be debit. I am going to put advance rent account debit, cash account credit. After this, I am going to write rent. Rent is an expense. I am going to put rent account debit, cash account credit. Similarly, next one, purchases. Purchase is an expense. I am going to put purchase account debit, cash account credit. Similarly, sales. Whenever you make any sale, cash account debit, sales account credit. I am going to put cash debit side, sales credit side. And after this, I have salaries. For salaries, what I will put, salaries and expense. I am going to write salaries debit, cash credit. Others, please go on mute. Next one is electricity. Electricity is also an expense. I am going to write electricity account on the debit side, cash account on the credit side. And afterwards, furniture. Furniture is an asset. We have already discussed any asset will show a debit balance. Since furniture is a asset, I am going to write furniture account on the debit side. You spent furniture by paying a cash. Cash account is credit side. Last one, computer. Computer is also an asset. I am going to write computer and printer debit, and I'll put cash account credit. This is what your accounting entry. In short, these are your journal entries which you are supposed to write for every transaction, whatever we have taken from the basic perspective. Now, after writing this journal entries, you need to prepare something called ledger account. Ledger account, whenever you are talking about closing balance of each account. Whenever you are talking about a ledger, make sure closing balance of each account you are going to consider. Now, how you are going to consider closing balance of each account? You have to prepare. After this, there is something called a trial balance. Let me put.
Sorry, I missed something I wanted to add. Quick question.
Sorry?
Hello. Yeah, I missed something. I wanted to find out what is the difference between the cash under the debit and then the cash under the credit. Yeah, I think I missed your explanation.
Wherever you have cash on the debit side, this is representing you received cash. Wherever you have cash on the credit side, this is representing you have spent cash. You have paid. Cash receipt, cash payment. And we are assuming that everything is a cash transaction.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now what I'll do, I am going to make a trial balance here. So let me put another heading called trial balance. Now in the trial balance, you have to put something called account, and you will put debit balance, you will put credit balance. This is what you'll have to put. Now for this trial balance, let me make a different this one. I'll put a different color for this. Okay, account, what you need to do in the trial balance, your account name should be unique. When I say in the trial balance, your account name should be unique. Make sure you don't duplicate the account number in the trial balance. Meaning, I have these many accounts here. I'll simply copy this. I'll place this here. Similarly, on the credit side, whatever I have, I'm going to copy everything. I'm going to put this here. This is what I've done. Now, if you look at this account, all the accounts, whatever we have listed, there are so many accounts which are duplicating. Cash is here, advance rent, purchases, cash is again duplicated. If you scroll down, everything is unique. Cash is appearing so many times. In the trial balance, you are not supposed to duplicate any accounting or any account. So what I will do, I will simply select this, copy this data and go to data on this, and you need to understand basic Excel skill set is mandatory for any FICO consultant. Okay, as a FICO consultant, we need to make sure we are good at basic accounting. I think somebody is not on mute. Okay, basic Excel sheet skill set is mandatory for every FICO consultant. What I will do, I will select all the accounts here. You will find an option called remove duplicate here. Click on this remove duplicate. I will continue with the current selection. Click on remove duplicates. On the account, I will remove it. It is telling 8 duplicate values found and removed, 10 unique values remain. Now here if you see, cash is no longer appearing multiple times. Earlier cash was appearing so many times. Now cash is not appearing so many times because the duplicate records have been deleted. Duplicate records have been deleted. Now what we need to do, for every account you need to identify whether it is showing a debit balance or it is showing a credit balance. But before you do it, you need to look at all the accounting entries here. When you look at all the accounting entries, first identify which accounts are appearing multiple times. Except cash, everything is appearing a single time only. It's only cash which is appearing multiple time. So what I'll do, I'll put a different color for cash. This is only to understand that this is appearing multiple time, meaning you need to identify the closing balance of the cash by taking total debit, total credit posted to the cash account. Currently, I'm not writing the cash account balance here. Remaining one, let me take. Now I have advance rent. Look at the advance rent. Where is this? If this advance rent in the accounting entry is showing a debit balance, advance rent will show a debit balance in TB also. If the account is showing a debit balance in the journal entry, it will show debit balance in the trial balance also. Now this is the advance rent. For this transaction, value is 5,000. For this transaction, value is 5,000. For this particular transaction, debit, credit will share the amount equally. This will be 5,000, this will be 5,000. We are all aware, whenever you write accounting entry, debit and credit, you are going to put the same amount. Debit 5,000, credit 5,000. What I am going to write here, I am going to take this 5,000 on the debit side against this advance rent. Let me put 5,000 here. After this, next account is rent. Come to here, rent. Where do you find rent? Rent is here. Rent is appearing on the debit side. If rent is on the debit side, even in trial balance, it will be on the debit side. Put rent 2000 on the debit side here. Next one, purchases. Look at the purchases. Purchases is here 30,000. Purchase is on the debit side in your accounting entry. If it is debit side, TB also debit side. 30,000 amount. Place 30,000 here. Next one is the salaries. Salaries is here in your accounting entry on the debit side. If your accounting entry is showing a debit balance, your TB also will show debit balance. I'll put debit balance of 3000 here. Next one, electricity. Electricity is 5000. It is appearing on the debit side. Sorry, 500. I am going to place 500 here on the debit side. Next one is your furniture. Furniture is appearing on the debit side. Furniture value is 2500. 2500 will come on the debit side here. Next one is your computer and printer. Computer and printer is on the debit side. Okay, value is 5000. I am going to take 5000 here. After this, next one is capital. If I look at the entries, capital is on the credit side. Capital is on the credit side. Amount is 50,000. I am going to take capital on the credit side for 50,000 here. I'm going to write 50,000 on the credit side. Next one is your sales. Sales is appearing on the credit side. Amount is 43,000. I am going to take 43,000 here. Now we have listed everything except cash. Why we did not write cash? Because cash is appearing more than one time. Because cash is appearing more than one time, any account appearing more than one time, you need to find out the closing balance. Closing balance is nothing but sum of all debits and credit. Identify how many debits you have in cash, how many credits you have in cash. Now what I'll do here is to find out the cash closing balance. I'll put, for example, cash debit. Now wherever I have debit, I'm going to highlight it. This is debit cash. This is debit cash. There are only two debits in the cash. There are only two debits in the cash. Let me put cash debit is how much? 50,000 and 43,000. It is equaling to 93,000. 93,000 is my cash debit balance. And similarly, I need my cash credit balance. Now cash credit balance is what? Wherever I have cash credit, let me put a different color for the cash credit. For example, I'll put blue color. This is credit, this is credit, this is also credit, 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 credit here. Now wherever cash is appearing on the credit side, we have highlighted it with the blue color. Now let me take the total of all the blue colors. This one, this one, this one. It is equaling to 48,000. It is equaling to 48,000, meaning my cash credit balance is 48,000. I'll take 48,000. Now the closing balance is equal to sum of this, debit minus credit. 93,000 minus 48,000, you are getting 45,000. This 45,000 is represented as cash closing balance. When you prepare the ledger account, this is what you are going to do. You will open a cash account, debit, credit. Debit side, wherever cash is there, every amount will appear. Credit side, wherever you have cash, every amount will appear. You will do a total for credit. You will, whichever is more, accordingly you are going to get either debit balance or credit balance. Okay, in our case, debit side is more, credit, the account is more balance side, the account is showing more balance on the credit side, account will give you credit balance. Now debit balance or credit balance is nothing but the difference between debit and credit. Now in this case, difference between debit and credit is what? 45,000. Which side is more? Debit side is more. Now this 45,000 is represented as cash debit balance of 45,000. This 45,000 I am going to place this here now. So this is how I found out my cash closing balance, and this is the way you will be figuring it out wherever you have any account appearing more than one time. Take the total debit, take the total credit, you will come to know whether it is debit balance or credit balance. If it is a debit balance, put it on the debit side of your TB. If it is a credit balance, put it on the credit side of your TB. Now what I'll do, we are all aware that trial balance is used for checking your accounting accuracy. If your accounting is done properly, trial balance debit, trial balance credit will exactly tally. If your accounting accuracy is not correct, TB will not tally. For that, what I will do a total of TB debit. I will do a TB total of debit, which I am getting 93,000. If I do a TB credit total, I am getting 93,000. Now, if I do this debit minus credit, I am supposed to get 0, meaning your trial balance is supposed to become 0, because equal debit equal credit, equal debit equal credit, meaning your accounting equation is debit plus credit is equal to 0. Debit is positive number, credit is negative number. In our example, if I put, for example, debit is 93,000, it will be a positive number. Credit is also 93,000, but whenever you are talking about credit, you should represent a negative number. And if you do a total, it should become 0. This is where you are going to represent debit plus credit is equal to 0. Why debit plus credit is equal to 0? Because debit is a positive number, credit is a negative number. Debit is a positive number, credit is a negative number. When you put accounting numbers as per this sign is very important in accounting. You're not supposed to ignore it is 93,000 only. If I remove this minus, this is not going to become 0. If you remove this minus, this is not going to become 0. That is where the problems will start. Just because you are not putting minus here, instead of getting 0, you are getting huge amount of 1,86,000, which is absolute mistake. So what you need to do, you need to make sure you will place negative sign here because it is a credit number. If you put negative number, your accounting is correct. If you don't put negative number, your accounting is wrong. It is as simple as that. Make sure you will pay attention on this positive sign, negative sign right from the beginning, strictly in SAP. Because in system, if you are not able to identify debit credit, you can easily identify with positive number, negative number. Any positive number is a debit balance, any negative number is a credit balance. Okay, this is basically your TB. Normally from the TB, what we are going to do, we are going to prepare P&L from the TB. We are going to prepare P&L from the TB. Now let me identify how the P&L is prepared. Let me put a simple draft of P&L. In P&L, we know that you will get expenses and you will have amount. Similarly, I will have incomes, I will have amount. I'll put income, I will find amount. Now to draft this P&L, you will be in a position to, or you need to identify what is your expense, what is your income. Let's say all my expenses I will highlight with green color. All my incomes I will be highlighting with, let's say, this color. So I am going to highlight all my expenses first. Rent is an expense. I will put this color. Purchase is an expense. Salary is an expense. Electricity is an expense. Only 4 expenses are there. Next one, I have income. Income, I have only sales. Let me highlight income here. This is my income. Okay, this is what we have highlighted from the trial balance, expenses and income. What I will do, expenses I will take here. Total expenses I am going to do a total. This is coming to 35,500. I am going to write 35,500. I'm not writing in detail because I want you to list out in detail as per this explanation whatever we are giving. I don't want you to follow what I am doing. I just want you to understand, recollect your basic accounting understanding. Accordingly, prepare one set as per your choice, as per your convenient number and all, to just ensure that you are comfortable, you are able to recollect your basic accounting. That's the only objective. Now income, there is only one number of 43,000. I'll put 43,000 here. Next thing what we need to do, we need to make sure the profit or loss is figured out. Now before that you need to identify your total expense is 35,500, total income is 43. If your income is more than expenses, you will get profit. If your expense is more than your income, you will get a loss. In this case, we are having more income than your expenses. Here you are going to get a profit. So what I will get? I will get a profit here. Now profit is your 43,000 minus 35,500. So 7,500 is the profit. The 7,500 whatever you are getting is a profit. Now after P&L, what we need to prepare? We need to prepare something called balance sheet. In the balance sheet, what you are going to have? You are going to have liability, and then you are going to have asset. Now what I'll do, liabilities I will identify with a different number. For example, let me highlight this for liabilities. And liability here I can find only capital. There is no other liability. Let me find out asset here. Asset, I would say, let me highlight with yellow. Cash is asset, advance rent is also an asset, furniture, computer are also asset. Now what I will do, liability amount I am going to place it here. Liability I am able to see 50,000 here. Okay. Asset, let me take the asset value, all yellow, these two plus these two. This is equaling to 57,500. I'll take 57,500. We are all aware that balance sheet should tally exactly. This is 57,500. This is not 57,500. Now, as we said, we need to make sure whenever you prepare your financials or whenever you prepare your accounting, you should have debit credit along with this sign. You should have debit credit along with this sign. Remember, all the accounts will have the debit credit except balance sheet. When you prepare ledger account, trial balance, P&L, everywhere you will find a debit credit. That is where you write to buy, TO2 or DRCR, but in balance sheet there is nothing called debit and credit. Then how you are going to understand balance sheet debit credit? By way of accounting sign. If it is a debit balance, put a positive number. If it is a credit balance, put a negative number. We are all aware any asset will show a debit balance, so asset is a positive number. Similarly, you know that liability is a credit balance is a negative number. So this 50,000 to be used as a negative number here. Next one, from your P&L, whatever the result that you get will be taken into the balance sheet account. In P&L, you got a profit of 7,500. If I put 7,500 profit here, if I put 7,500 profit here, balance sheet is not tallying because my sign is not correct. If this is a profit, it is supposed to be a credit balance. If I put minus, this is now equaling. Why this is equaling? Because you are placing negative sign for the profit. Now we will get a doubt. Most of the times we will have confusion here. Whenever you look at a P&L, most of the companies P&L will give you negative number. Most of the companies P&L will give you a negative number. Reason, most of the companies will get profit only. It's very rare that a company will get a loss. Otherwise, usually every company will be running in profits only. It's very rare some company will run in loss. Initially they may be incurring losses, but later on they will be having profits only. Meaning, whenever you look at any financial statement, whenever you look at any company's P&L in SAP, you will be generating P&L in SAP, which will give you a result as negative number. Negative number means immediately our mind thinks as loss. But if you go back to the accounting rules, if you look at the nominal account, debit all expenses and losses, meaning if you get a loss, it is a debit. Credit all income and gain. Gain means a profit. If you get any profit, it is a credit. Credit means a negative number. That is the reason your profit is a gain. It is a credit number. If you put this, your balance sheet debit is 57,500. Your balance sheet credit is 57,500, which is exactly matching. This is tallying with 57,500 and 57,500. You need to make sure like this you are in a position to prepare the basic accounting. You don't need to do any the complicated accounting. Just make yourself comfortable that okay, if I look at this transaction, this is how the numbers are coming. And once you are able to understand this, what you will be doing once you start your company code practice, or once you understand how to do the initial configuration or baseline configuration in SAP, post only these entries. You post these entries in the first. Once you start posting the journal entries, we are all aware that the moment you start configuring SAP system, first thing what we will do, we will start posting a debit credit accounting entry. When you start posting a debit credit accounting entry, instead of posting something else or the different accounting entries, please post only these accounting entries. Create everything as a GL account, put the debit credit to the same account. Put the debit credit to this same account. After that, you try to verify whether these numbers are coming fine or not. When I say verify whether these numbers are coming fine or not, just go to cash account, verify if you are able to see 45,000 cash or not. If you are able to see 45,000 cash from SAP, your understanding is correct. SAP is also working fine. Then go find out how you can see the trial balance in SAP. If you are able to see the trial balance in SAP, which will give you total debit 93,000, total credit 93,000, TB sum is 0, then your SAP TB is also working fine. And similarly, look at the P&L. Now, before you look at the P&L, you need to understand how P&L works in SAP. You need to understand how P&L works in SAP. When you understand how P&L works in SAP, you will be able to see 7,500 as profit. And after that, you need to see balance sheet. Here you need to understand how do we get a balance sheet from SAP. And if you are able to run this balance sheet from SAP, if you can see debit credit 57,500, your understanding is correct. This is the simple basic accounting which we will be doing. If you take pen paper, if you take an Excel sheet, this will not take more than half an hour for you to complete it. Now you need to take the same scenario. Once you start practicing SAP, once you are able to post an accounting document, check if you are able to bring the number from SAP. If you are able to see this figure from SAP, if you are able to see it, you are in a right track. You are understanding everything is fine. If you are not able to do it, then something is wrong. Meaning you have to slowly start questioning yourself. I know if I give you this accounting entries, or if I give this a scenario, I can easily tell you what is your profit, what is your loss. Now question yourself, if the same business is running in SAP, you put a name for it. You put a name for it. I will say that Ajay IT Solutions Limited. I will say that this is my company name. You create a company with Ajay IT Solutions in SAP. You can replace any company name of your choice. Set up the basic configuration, post these accounting entries, generate the report, see the TB, see the P&L, see the balance sheet. Then your understanding is correct. You're thinking in a right way. When you try to look at from this perspective, you will start getting a lot of questions. Why you will start getting a lot of questions? That is where you will question yourself, how do I see the trial balance? Most of the people, even after completing the SAP FICO course, they do not know what is trial balance. They do not know how to see trial balance from SAP. In the entire tenure of your course, you would not have seen trial balance. And it is so bad that we completed SAP FICO course, but we do not know how to see a trial balance in SAP. And we claim that we are a FICO consultant, we are from accounting background, we did BCom, we did MBA, we did XYZ. But we do not know how to see a TB from SAP. And we say that we worked in implementation project, we worked in rollout project. Basic fundamental point is without a trial balance, no SAP FICO project is complete. Everybody knows data migration and all. Your data migration, legacy data upload, everything is based on TB only. There are a lot of connecting points related to trial balance for a FICO consultant. It is very crucial object for a FICO. And if you forget, if you do not know what is the TB, it is very bad. But make sure, because that is the reason I am talking about the TB at the beginning itself. Later on, it should not be any surprise. When somebody is asking you, you do not know what is TB, you cannot even say that I don't, you feel ashamed to say that I don't know what is trial balance. I have not seen a trial balance in SAP. It is very awkward situation even to say somebody that I do not know. Even though you are honest, even though you are genuine that you are from the accounting background, but you have never seen a TB in SAP. But since you are an experienced candidate, you are not a fresher candidate. If you are a fresher candidate, you have no work experience and all, that's a different story. Having experience, most of the people who come into SAP are experienced candidates only. And they should think in a different way. At least from the basic accounting perspective, then you will be in a right direction. When I say you will be in a right direction, you are able to understand things in a sequential order. You are able to relate things practically. This is very much important. Okay. Now what I want everybody to do is, I want everybody to take sample of this. If you are able to understand what we did here, you can replicate the similar scenario in your Excel sheet. Make sure you are able to prepare the basic accounting entries, TB P&L balance sheet. That is point number one. If you have understood clearly what we did. If not, take the copy paste the same content when I share the Excel sheet in your group. Replace the numbers. Take the same Excel sheet, replace the number. Replace the number, I mean to say, in place of 50,000, you put some other number. In place of 50,000, you put some other number and prepare the accounting. Put some other number, prepare the accounting. When you prepare the accounting here, make sure you get the profit loss and your P&L balance sheet tallies. And once this is completed for one set, take the same data. Now you got the profit. Now manipulate the number, change the numbers to get the loss. When I say change the number to get the loss, what needs to be changed in order to get a loss? Now this is the number to get a profit. Now what I need to do if I wanted to get a loss? Meaning here, while doing this activity, you are understanding things in a different way, which is going to think conceptually, practically from the business perspective. Okay, so this is for today. Any questions on this you can ask. Please raise your hand. Any question if anybody has, you can raise your hand.
Hello, hello, Ajay.
Yes.
I don't know how we can download the session. Could you please suggest
Sessions
for that?
cannot be downloaded. You can only view the sessions.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
as you said previously, you were going to send that through mail, right?
That I'll give the instructions. Maybe in few days I will give the instructions wherein you can refer the sessions in a sequential order in a YouTube playlist.
The thing is, see, if for that we need a net, which means data.
Correct.
So offline we can't able to access.
Offline cannot be accessed because earlier I was giving offline download options, but there are many
Mhm.
instances it was misused. Misused, I mean to say, people started downloading and then they started sharing. So that's the reason I
Okay.
stopped giving the download option. Yeah.
See, based on that, see, we are, you can't think in that way only, right? You can protect
No,
where,
it has happened. That's the reason it has happened. Otherwise, there is
currently,
no problem in giving it. It has happened. So I do not know from where it has happened, but it has happened. If I give the download option, you will download it, but I cannot give download option only to you, right? So when I
I
enable the download option, it is
That's
for
true. That's
everybody.
true. Yeah.
And then this has practically happened, and then it will be, a negative for everybody, either for me or for you. This is your paid content, correct? And if
Yeah.
somebody is downloading and sharing for everybody, the other person is becoming your competitor. Whatever your understanding is something that is going to add value when you're in the market or when you're in the project, because you're understanding things in a different way, in a conceptual sequential order. But you can have the access to the recording, but the only point is cannot be downloaded. That's the only point.
That is fine, but the thing is, which means offline access is not there. That is the main problem. Why? Because
Offline
yeah.
offline is not available. You will not get download options anywhere.
So the thing
I
is,
have
see,
I have given, but you also have to understand certain points. We have
actually,
to see
I've
it
been
from a
yes.
different perspective, not only from a the one person perspective. So it's a loss for everybody if I give download option. If the session is shared by the others, it has practically happened. That is the reason I have stopped it. Earlier I was giving download option for all the sessions, but people
So if
shared
you
in
want to,
such a way that the people have misutilized it. Not only
Misused.
the sessions, but also the server. Server also people started the giving to the others, which I give for free of cost. Server is not included in your training, but I give from my side as free of cost, for which I will pay from my pocket. But that also
Yeah.
people started misutilizing it. So that's the only objective. Otherwise, there's nothing. And I would say, do not depend on the recording. When you attend the session live, you don't need any recording. You don't even have to depend on the recording. Whenever you're dependent on it, or in future, if you need anything, I will allow you to attend the session at no additional cost. There's no such restriction.
Yeah, I completely agree for that. But the thing is, so some people are, and maybe about some people, I'm working in night shift. So for that, I'm asking.
No, no, you have the net at your home, right? Either Wi-Fi or something that you'll have to manage. So no other option for it. The downloading is strictly not available.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope you
sorry, I
understand
missed.
the point. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, yeah. This has happened. That is the only reason I stopped it. Otherwise, as I said, I was giving the download option. But this is something that is your paid content, and this is something that you're, which is going to make you unique in the market, whatever you're learning here. And if it is spread for free of cost for the others, you will be at the risk. And my effort and your effort both will be gone.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think I missed what you were saying about the server thing. Do we still have access to the server? Will we be given access to the server?
Sorry. I repeat it again. I could not get your point.
Sorry, I missed what you mentioned on the server aspect. I'm just trying to find out if we will be giving access to the server. Okay.
Server access, yes, I will be providing. Since we have not yet started the configuration, I will be giving in this week, because I will be giving the
Okay.
common IDs. It's not that one ID per head, because in the server we cannot create more IDs. I will be giving certain common IDs with the common password. You have to keep it within yourself. Whenever you wanted to practice, one of the ID you can pick and then practice.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on this topic? Whatever we discussed, you're able to understand how
Ye-
we've done this
Yeah,
accounting part,
Ajay.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't start. I wasn't here when it started. I was in the meeting, but I wanted to find out what's the difference between advance rent and rent.
Advance rent is something that you will be paying before taking the premise. Okay. Some
Right.
vendor or some landlord may say that you have to pay me 5-month rent in advance or 10-month rent in advance. This amount, whatever you are paying, at the time of vacating, you will get it back. It's kind of a security deposit.
Okay, so it's like a deposit, right?
Deposit, yeah. It's kind of an
Okay,
asset.
okay.
When you vacate, you will get it back.
Okay, okay. Because I see rent as a liability, but that one, the advance rent wasn't. So I just wanted the clarification.
Yeah, rent is an expense, advance rent is an asset.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Ajay.
Yes.
Uh, you wrote cash on the debit side as most of the cash is on the credit side, right? You wrote
Correct.
cash 45,000. Yeah.
Hmm. That is because it is a sale transaction. On the top, I have listed note all transactions are cash transactions. Correct? Huh? We are assuming that everything
Yeah.
handled in cash. So whenever you make any sale,
Okay.
when you make a sale, customer
Mm-hmm.
is going to make the money to you, meaning you are receiving the cash from the customer and you are making a sale. So cash account will be on the debit side, sales account is on the credit side because we are considering a cash transaction. On the other side, if you consider as credit transaction, customer account will be debited, sales account will be credited.
Okay.
Okay, this is only to understand how accounting portion is happening, so that we will be able to recollect all these things we would have already studied back then, maybe in your graduation, intermediate and all. It's only to make sure we will recollect the accounting, and then when we start discussing about different points, we all can practically relate it to it, what we are doing, why we are doing, why debit, why credit, how reports are coming, how values are coming, all this kind of a thing. Because tomorrow when you're in any project, when you're discussing with your client user, they will be talking about the same point. They will be talking about debit, credit, what is my P&L impact, what is my balance sheet impact, how my TB is looking like and all. For us to practically relate to this, if you prepare these kind of activities at the beginning, this will give you a practical conceptual understanding wherein you feel confident, comfortable that yes, this is something that I've already done during your academics. Agree?
Yes.
And when you recollect it, you will find it more convenient. You will feel that okay, whatever I know, same thing I'm repeating it. And going forward, we will be connecting every point, so that you will not feel that you are learning something new and all. You are just revising whatever is coming in SAP FICO is something related to whatever you're already aware of. It's just that you're enhancing it, you're adding, or you're understanding in a different practical way. Clear?
Yes, Ajay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? You're able to understand, right? Let me clarify this. You're able to get what we're talking, right?
I would have loved that
Yeah,
probably
I am
before I
able
started.
to, as I'm not from the accounting background, so I'm trying to
Hmm.
understand.
Yeah, you'll
Hmm.
get it. That's the reason I am not straight away getting into SAP and all. I'm starting from the basic accounting so that you can relate it conceptually one by one.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody? If no, fine then. So understand this. Okay, I'll share this Excel sheet right after this session. Look at the Excel sheet. Try to replace the numbers here, and see if you are able to prepare the TB, PNL, balance sheet, which will tally. Okay. All right. Fine then.
Hey, Ajay,
So
Ajay, just one quick question. Do we gonna
yeah,
have a classes Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday?
Monday to Friday is where I'm going to take this session on a regular basis. Saturday, we will be having only the doubts clarification session. Whatever we discussed from Monday to Friday, whatever the doubts, confusions that you get, we will be clarifying on Saturday. If no doubts, whatever we discussed from Monday to Friday, we will have a revision without looking at SAP.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, Sunday we will be taking a
Thank you.
break. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, definitely. We need to. Yeah. Thanks.
yeah. All
Thank
right. Fine then. So we will connect at the same time tomorrow. Good night.